Marijuana, the devil's harvest, the assassin of youth. Good kids quickly go bad. This was the portrayal of pot for nearly a century. Long touted as the smoke of hell, responsible for violent and psychotic behavior. Many researchers believe it to be relatively benign, yet it remains illicit and demonized in much of the world. Today, marijuana has never been more valuable or potent. Law enforcement fights it. Cannabis clubs flourish. And obsessed agriculturalists are perfecting its botany. Breathe deep. This is not your father's marijuana. If a stranger walked up to you and poured pebble-like seeds in your hand, then said, plant them, and your harvest can be made into rope, cloth, or paper. It could help the sick or intoxicate. What would you say? Would you keep the seeds? Or chuck them away? So it is with marijuana. A plant like no other. The scientific name is Cannabis sativa. We know it as pot, weed, ganja, hemp. Its ability to intoxicate makes it vilified, illegal, and desired. An estimated 200 million people around the world smoke it. 2 million Americans alone will try it this year, making marijuana the most widely used illicit substance in the world. And it's everywhere. Growers, smugglers, and dealers do whatever it takes to get their product to the customer. And now, they've invaded national lands, planting marijuana gardens hidden in the forests.
We have 2 suspects who are out in the woods somewhere. We're using
the illegal cultivation of marijuana on public lands in California is what I would call in a crisis mode. Every time we go out and look, we find more than we did the time before.
Ron Pugh has been enforcing laws in U.S. forests for 29 years.
It is the most dangerous thing that we Forest Service law enforcement engage in.
Armed men are holed up, protecting illegal crops. Because of that, entering some state and national parks can be dangerous for law enforcement and civilians alike. This is a joint operation between U.S. Forest Service and several other law enforcement agencies. The mission is to identify, then raid an illegal marijuana garden. An action that happened over 700 times in the last 2 years in California alone.
The top of this ridge line over here, we'll go over the top and then we'll... 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, okay. He says, look straight down in the trees right down here. See the brown surface?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the garden.
See the dead tree and all the sprouts? Yep, I see it exactly.
See the water rings down below us?
Yep, I see it.
That's the other garden.
Oh, yeah. We don't want to spend a lot of time here,
No, we want to bug out of here.
Okay, right there.
Yeah, shadow now.
All right, we're out of here.
The team must now plan an approach to raid the garden. It's a 3-hour covert hike over rugged terrain. Growers plant marijuana to make money, and there's a lot of money to be made. 20 years ago, much of the pot in the U.S. was smuggled in by people willing to risk it all. People like Todd Steele.
The profile of people who smoke pot is basically everybody. Doctors smoke pot, attorneys smoke pot, real estate agents smoke pot. Hippies smoke pot, and conservative people who go to church every single Sunday smoke pot too.
Steele was a big-time pot smuggler.
From buying 10, 15 pounds of pot to sell in high school, I started recognizing that I can buy 100 pounds of pot and 1,000 pounds of pot and a ton of pot and 20 tons of pot.
A skilled sailor, he began to crew on sailboats, doing runs to Colombia.
I just sort of worked my way up the ladder until I made all the right contacts, and by the time I was 17 years old, I was down in Colombia doing 20-ton loads.
But the Todd Steele way of doing business, smuggling pot over international borders, is being challenged. Today, as borders tighten, the high seas smuggler might just as likely be a neighborhood grower.
We've been working this guy for like 3 months now. He doesn't have a job, he doesn't go anywhere. He drives a black F450, and he also has a white Hummer. Obviously, the guy's been identified as a grower.
Here in Florida, the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency has busted over 750 homes in the past 9 months. Suburban homes converted into greenhouses, indoor growing operations known as grow-ops. It's a record year.
In the last 3, 4, 5 years, we've seen a great phenomenon of indoor marijuana grows, and that's all around the country. And unfortunately, it has grown quite a bit in the state of Florida to the point where we've actually become the top indoor producer of marijuana in the United States.
Behind a door, 44 plants are discovered. A moderate-sized grow worth about $150,000. Many gardens like this go undetected. Moreover, gardeners can now bypass Mother Nature. Weather and geography are no longer relevant. With all this control comes near perfect plants. And with that perfection comes a stronger product. The psychoactive compound that alters one's consciousness is called tetrahydrocannabinol, THC. And today's marijuana can potentially have a lot of it.
This is not 60s marijuana anymore. We're finding marijuana with a THC content in the 20s, 20 percentile. In the 20 percentile, we're talking back in the 60s and 70s of 3, 4% THC. Now we're in the 20s. This is very potent stuff now. It's all about making money. And when you grow indoors, you can have 3 to 4 harvests a year. If you take an average of about 1 pound a plant here in the streets of Miami, that's $35,000 to $4,000 a pound. Take that to New York, for example, and you're talking about $7,000 a pound.
In 2005, the U.S. State Department estimates nearly 10 million kilos of marijuana were produced indoors and out. Some assessments have it displacing corn as the leading cash crop in America. So as much as the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency would like to see these operations go away, they're not. Everywhere around the world, this plant has its warriors. People who make a living from it, and activists who believe that criminal marijuana laws are wrong. This is Mark Emery, the Prince of Pot.
We are at war with the DEA. We are at war with the U.S. Department of Justice.
This is the largest global marijuana march in the world today with 250 cities. We've got possibly 20,000 people here today.
He's an internationally famous crusader for pot legalization.
We need to have a lot of pot. And we need to have millions and millions of people growing this pot. And we need to be able to make the governments waste lots of money tracking all this pot down so that no matter how much pot they burn, there's still lots of pot.
That would be a good one. Now, here's
Emery has agreed to take us to a place no television crew has been before. The largest indoor marijuana garden he's ever seen. Sam Malache grows marijuana.
How you doing, boys?
In 2001, Canada became the first country to institute a nationwide medical marijuana law. That means that a select group of people can legally grow and use cannabis. Malache is